Alright, so today I'm going to talk about ammunition, primarily 44 Magnum. Ever since I started carrying my Model 69 Smith & Wesson chambered in 44 Magnum, I've gotten lots of different responses, lots of different questions from people curious about what made me decide to carry a larger bore revolver such as this. So I figured today I would go over my top 5 reasons of why I chose to carry a Model 69 Smith & Wesson. I'm curious to hear what other people think about it. I know it's not for everybody. I know it's not particularly tactical along the lines of today's modern thinking for firearms, but it's something that I've decided to carry. So here's my top 5 list. Alright, so starting with number 5, which is versatility. Now, when the average person thinks of 44 Magnum, they think of something like this: 240 grain, basically your hunting load. Full power, and up from 240 grain. They've got bear loads, which I know are in excess of 300 grain, and they think of that and they think of a full power, high recoil, high velocity, high penetration round, excellent for hunting large game. Fact is that there is many different options when it comes to 44 Magnum, especially in self-defense rounds. If you actually start looking, you can get 44 Magnum as low as cowboy loads, which is softer shooting than your average 45 ACP. So if you're looking for an excellent carry round, they make real low recoil stuff, which is excellent, and then they make stuff like the wad cutter that you can get, which is actually really good for self-defense. There's several people out there that have done videos on how great it is to use wad cutters for self-defense, because they offer a little bit less recoil than your average round. I know a lot of people that carry 38 special wad cutters. And then you've got stuff like the new stuff coming out, like your copper rounds, which offer more penetration for less recoil and less actual less bullet weight, making them easier to fire. So as far as versatility, you really can't go wrong with something like a 44 Magnum. Even Hickok 45 will say how when he loads for 44 Special, he uses the Magnum casing just because it's easier to keep track of everything that way, and he can load them to whatever specification he wants. So that's number 5. Alright, at number 4 we have Knockdown Power, in quotations of course. Obviously there is no such thing as knockdown power when it comes to handgun rounds. Newton's third law, equal and opposite reaction, and all that good stuff. But with that being said, we do have ballistics, and the fact of the matter is a heavier item moving faster is going to do more damage than a lighter, smaller item possibly moving slower. So for that analogy, I give you the bar fight. Now, it's going to be represented by 9mm, 45 ACP, and 44 Magnum. Obviously 9 and 45 are two of the most popular carry rounds. So I'm going to say, which would you rather get into a bar fight with if you were out somewhere? So you've got 9mm, aka the preppy college kid, a little lightweight, probably, had 2 or 3 beers and they're drunk, passed out, whatever, it's over. Then you got 45 ACP. Now 45 ACP, that guy probably 50 years ago could hold his own, no problem, but that was 50 years ago, and now, they're kind of used up and wore out. And then you got 44 Magnum. Now that guy looks like he could probably bench press a car at this point, and he looks angry. So you tell me, which would you rather get into a bar fight with? And that's what I thought. So, that being said, that's my number 4 reason of why I like 44 Magnum. Alright, number 3, we have sides of the guns themselves. Now 44 Magnum's kind of on the higher end of what I consider acceptable carry rounds. And with that, obviously the guns themselves are a little bit on the large side. This is an L frame, Model 69 obviously. This is a J frame, 638. Both are 5 shots. Barrel lengths are within an inch of each other, give or take. And as you can see, with all that, there's still a pretty decent size difference between the two. Now, there's many advantages to having a larger gun than a small gun. Obviously, we all know larger guns are easier to shoot because the 69, you can get a much nicer grip hold on. With this one, I've got a 3-finger grip. Fits really nice in the hand, and it's a fatter grip, which makes holding on to it a lot easier. Whereas with a lot of small guns like this, now I could get a 3-finger grip on this if I really wanted to, but it would overall increase the size of the gun a lot, and would kind of defeat the purpose of having a small little pocket snub nose. Plus, even with that, you're still going to have the smaller frame, and it's going to be overall harder to shoot. So having a larger grip is always going to be an advantage. And with that, you also can get nicer sights on a larger gun. Obviously, a lot of your small pocket guns don't have adjustable sights. This 638 is a great example. The sights are milled into the frame and the barrel and are non-interchangeable. The only thing you could do with this is I painted the top of that, and you've got a fairly nice sight picture for what the gun is, but obviously not ideal. Whereas with a larger frame, like an L frame, you can fully change the sights, fully adjustable, can pretty much do whatever you want. Also, it comes down to the intimidation factor. Now, when I say intimidation, I'm not recommending anybody going out and brandishing a firearm trying to get their way. What I'm talking about is the fact is, statistically, a lot of quote-unquote gunfights never happen because when the bad guy comes at someone and the good guy is armed, the mere act of drawing and presenting your firearm is enough for the bad guy to make that split-second decision that maybe they don't want to come at this person because they realize they're armed, and they stop aggressing, retreat, but whatever the situation calls for. And obviously, in order for that to happen, the bad guy has to realize you're armed. Now, that might sound kind of stupid, but especially in the heat of the moment, if you're drawing a small little pocket revolver such as this, it's statistically, at the end of the day, you can say that you've got a higher percentage of times where the bad guy's going to notice a bigger gun than he's going to notice a smaller gun. So I don't have any data on that, on how likely you are or aren't to have that happen where the mere presentation of a firearm is going to be enough to stop the bad guy. But I'm sure we can all agree that your chances are higher than, if you were to carry a small gun. So that's number 3. Alright, so at number 2 we have, I just like it. I like carrying revolvers. I grew up watching, me and my grandfather, he got me into John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, Gunsmoke, Bonanza, all that stuff. And I grew up watching gunslingers walk around with 6-shooters and get into epic gunfights at high noon. So I always had a fondness for revolvers. Now, there's no statistic data, there's no ballistics, there's no anything for this particular one. But it's just, I like large, larger bore revolvers like that. Always been fond of them, and I've always had a fondness for the 44 Magnum. There's a lot of history behind that particular round. How, Elmer Keith was pushing for it to be designed, and Remington came up with the round, and then Smith & Wesson designed the gun for it, and it all came together into the 44 Magnum. So I've just always had a fondness for that style gun, and I don't feel limited in the least carrying a lower capacity gun such as a revolver. I know the commonplace gun for today is your 15+1 double stack 9mm, but the fact of the matter is, those epic gunfights that you saw on TV or in the movies, they don't happen in real life. You can go watch dash cam footage, you can go watch all the things that happen in real life, and odds are you don't fire more than a couple shots if you ever get into a situation where you have to fire your gun, which by itself is extremely rare. We live in a relatively safe world where we don't need to carry, all the ammunition in the world. I'm not saying you shouldn't. If that's what you want to do, then go for it. I'm never going to tell you that you should carry less ammo, which is why I carry reloads. But that, like I said, there's that particular reason, there's no statistics or anything behind it. That's just one of my reasons. So that's number 2. Alright, so here we are, my number 1 reason for carrying 44 Magnum. Now you may have noticed there's this little robot guy sitting here in frame the whole time. Now there's bonus points if you can tell me who that is. But you're probably going to sit there and think, well, I'm going to talk about how we need 44 Magnum to take out the robots when they come to overthrow the world. The robots, the Terminators, the cyborgs. And while 44 Magnum might be an excellent round for that, that's not my number 1 reason. My number 1 reason is much more serious than that, and that is deer. Now, I live in Pennsylvania, and we have quite a lot of issues with deer running out in front of cars, wrecking people's front ends, and smashing their windshields. And the deer love doing this. They think it's hilarious to do this and run out in front of cars and do this. And there's not really anything the average person can do about it. Even if the average person happens to be carrying a gun on them, they know that the average carry round is something like this, 9mm. And 9mm is not going to do anything against a deer. And they know this. So they don't really worry about it. They see someone with a little 9mm on them and they laugh. They laugh as they run out and destroy your front end. So I carry something like 44 Magnum because they see me coming down the road carrying something like this, and they realize that I am a threat to them. They realize that I have the capability to knock out one of them if they try and jump out in front of me and destroy my front end. So that's why I carry 44 Magnum. My number 1 reason is deer repellent. Nothing scares away a deer that thinks it's going to smash your front end more likely than a 44 Magnum. So that's my video. Feel free to comment, ask questions down below, and have a good day.